everyone, Ernie Tech here, and I'm going to play around with MTS yet again. And in front of me I have my Bucky's mug, or cup, with Bucky himself on it, full of Canadian coffee. So Tim Hortons coffee, Bucky's mug. It's an international incident waiting to happen. Let's hope not. All right. I'm going to sign in here as usual. If you're not sure about what to do here, the previous three videos will give you all the information you need. All right. Sign on STO1. And dirt simple, STO1. All right, here's a little bit of information about me. Very little information. When did I last sign on? And here it is today. Let's see. How many times have I signed on today? About 92 times. But I get better every time that I do. So you recall, as STO1, I'm in my own private little Idaho, my own personal space. Nobody else can get in here unless I give them specific access. There's a different kind of user, which is a user that is essentially for the files that it's created as part of things you can call, let's say, interpreters or compilers and so on, utilities and this and that and everything. So you have you as you, and then there are account names that you can sign in as, or it gives you access to, as my friends would say, the innards of this thing. But for now, we're just going to stay as STO1. So what I want to do now is I just want to play with Lisp and Basic. Now, there's a ton of interpreters and ton of programming environments here. There's PL1, there is, I think there's a C, there's even a C interpreter or compiler here. There's a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, Lisp and Basic are dirt simple, and we should probably start there just because that's where we should start. All right, so let's do something here. First thing I want to do is I'm going to see what's out there. Let me see what I've already created as far as files. And to do that, I just type in FI. And I have created three files, hello PL1, test.4, and test2.4. These are earlier experiments of mine. I was trying to do some PL1, which I'm not that familiar with. It's okay. Fortran I know a little bit better. I did a couple of those things here, but that's not the focus here. What I want to show you was that there are three files. And it's interesting because these two environments I'm going to work in are not going to create additional files, even though you would think they would, but they're not going to. And I guess there's a good reason for it, just because of what you're doing with it. For instance, Lisp. I'm going to try to write a very quick Lisp example. And the reason why it's fun is because Lisp is interpretive. And Lisp is actually like having your own little calculator right on the screen. So you're not actually developing anything here. You're just using it to answer questions, like a calculator. To run anything, you just type in the run command, and then you put in the asterisk and then the name of it, if you happen to know the name of it. In this case here, it's util ISP1L. That's it. So remember, you get different kinds of prompts based upon what it is that you're trying to do. In this case here, we are in an environment. We are in the Lisp interpreter environment. And Lisp, well, it stands for something, 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 but we always said it stood for lost inside stupid parentheses. And we used it a lot with AutoCAD because we were AutoCAD programmers back in the day. So if I type in plus 3, 4, you're going to get 7. If I type in call it out, you're going to get 7 as well. I mean, it's as easy as it could possibly be. So that's the interpreted, on-the-fly, interactive way that you can work with this language. So if you're done there, all you have to do is just type in quit, and it takes you back out to this prompt. And this prompt is where you need to be, because that is the MTS prompt. Now remember, MTS is it's a job, actually. It's a job running under the supervisor called UMPS, or UUMPS something or other, University of Michigan Supervisor Environment. So MTS, the operating system, is actually a job running inside of another job, which is the actual operating system, or UMMTS. You know I'm getting at. So when you just type in quit, it takes you back to this, and that's the normal prompt. All right, how do we do a basic program? Well, there's a bunch of different ways to do a basic program, but the easiest way is inside of basic itself. And it's not as easy as you think, because there's a couple of steps we have to go here. First thing we have to do is you have to run basic. So we'll do a run, and then literally that's all you run basic. Right off the bat takes you into a completely new prompt. Now you have this little guy right here. You got the blinking thing and your colon, and what you can do is you can now give basic commands. There are some commands that you have to give it. For instance, if I want to create a new file, I actually tell it to open it. Now this is different than in the edit command. Well, in the basic operating system, you would create a file by saying create. And then you could go into the editor, the built-in editor, and you could use that environment to edit whatever you created. But in this case here, we're in basic. We're in the basic environment. Everything's going to be done within that environment. So it can get confusing at first. You're not in the edit environment, and so it's going to look, well, it's going to look like you are, but you're not. Alrighty, here we go. So let's open up a new thing. Open test. Now, normally I would do that, but this thing complains when you do that. It doesn't like the extension. The basic environment says, I don't like extensions. I assume it's basic, so why do you need to put a BAS on the end? I don't know, but it makes no sense. So if I try to do that, if I try to create a brand new file using an open command, and I used BAS on the end, it complains. So I actually have to just do it without it. Again, you're inside of the environment, so I assume that what it's doing is saying that anything that you create within the basic environment is going to be a BAS anyway, so why do you need to name it? Well, you'll see how that works in a few minutes. Okay, so let's just say test. Our test has been created. What do I do here? In this environment, it's a line-oriented programming environment. You got to put in the 10, 20, 30, whatever. Very much like GW Basic, very much like any of the basics from the PCs of the past. Any old school basic, you'd understand exactly what's going on here. So if I wanted to do a very simple thing, let's say for J, which is called J as it could be N for all let's just say N. For N equals 1 to 9. All right, you know where this is going. Put in 20. Print N 30, next N. Okay, so we're going to get this thing to print 1 through 9. If I want to see what I've done there, what I can do is I can just put in the run command. And watch. Thump, thump, thump. So you're completely inside of this environment. You are completely and totally inside of this environment. You're not inside the edit environment. I see this gets me out of here. It does. When I type MTS at the end of the program, back at this colon prompt, it kicks me out to the MTS environment. It actually kicks me out to the job that's currently running called MTS. Now, if you notice up here, I created a file called test, but did I? Yeah, good question. Well, if I go into the operating system and I say FI, you don't see it there because it didn't create a text file outside of its own environment. It's inside of its own basic environment. So what I'm trying to say is in MTS, and it may be very similar to a lot of different operating systems that have developed over the years by different people and different ways of doing things, you are dealing with that environment's peculiarities and the way it does things, the way you tell it what to do when you want to give it a system command or an internal command versus when you want to put in some lines of code. But everything is happening within that environment there. Now, when I type in FI for the information about the files, I've already created 3, hello PL1, test.4, test2.4, in which I was trying to play around with the PL1 interpreter and the Fortran compiler and so on. That's different because those things are actual text files that I was using the editor for. And that's pretty much it. So that's how you program elementally in MTS. Again, this is not a real long video. It's something that's why I wanted to show you that things, again, are different depending upon what environment you're working in and how things were done. And that's why this can get pretty doggone confusing. But it also gives you a sense of why perhaps Microsoft had this very structured style. And when I was working for some engineering firms and I was doing AutoCAD management and training and all sorts of stuff that I did, I got involved with with Microsoft because they were helping Autodesk develop standards for the way in which your menus should look, the way in which your pull downs and look. If you ever wondered why you had file on the left and not on the right, well, you can thank Microsoft for that because you knew where things were. In this case here, it depends which environment you're in. So if you're in the PL1 environment, you're using the editor. If you're in the basic environment that comes with this, you're in the basic environment. If you're using Lisp, you can use it interactively. So there you have it. Okay, not a real long one today. I'm doing a lot of fiddling around with this stuff. It's fun, but it is complicated. All right, as usual, please subscribe, comments if you would, and we'll see you later. Okay, bye for now.